So what can we do if we're experiencing these adverse effects? I'm going to focus on some ideas in this video that hopefully will be helpful, but these are only suggestions. So the first point is, depending on the severity of what you're going through, you'll want to find a therapist or a meditation teacher who understands this territory. And that's going to depend on the frame that you're coming from. So if your frame is traditional Buddhist or another spiritual orientation background, then you'll want to find someone who can make sense of it in that tradition, ideally who is also trained in therapy and perhaps trauma therapy and some other modalities that might be helpful. On the other side of it, if you're not coming from that frame, then you want to find a therapist or a teacher that can put it more in the mental health context and help you to work with these difficult thoughts, feelings, experiences that are happening as a result of this. There are support groups and other areas like that as well online that you might want to look into. Then the second part of that is that you are the expert though. So just as in this video, I'm going to give some suggestions. These are things I found helpful for me and in working with my clients and people going through this. But actually you are the expert. So don't let anyone tell you it means this and you must do this, this and this. They should be more tentative and suggesting than that, because they're not in your body and mind. They don't know what you're going through, what has led to this experience. They're probably framing it from what's worked for them in their own mind. And then people get very evangelical about their approach and their ideas. And actually, with psychological things, it's not as simple as that. We don't have the one best way of working with our mind and our emotions. We're still working on it. We have some processes. There's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of concepts in different therapies that are saying the same thing, that are helpful, but put it in different ways. And to be honest, we don't really understand it. Much like I often think about the weather for this, in the whole of my lifetime, it doesn't seem we've got much better at predicting the weather. And I think, that's because it's a complex system. And, the mind is way more complex than that. So we're only just discovering these things. So you are the expert. Trust your own experience is the second point. Then some other ideas would be to reduce the time that you're practicing, especially if this has come out of intense practice. So, bring it down to even just 5-10 minutes a day of whatever the practice is, or integrate it into your life, or pause completely if that feels the right thing to do, and observe what happens when you do that. Just like exercise, if we've pulled a muscle, you're not going to keep going at running a marathon. You're going to try and bring it back and then build it back up gradually as you see what you can and can't do. The next point would be actually to change the practice you've been doing. And I've found with people, it's often good to switch to something that has more cognitive aspects. So something like loving kindness practice, where we have imagery and a phrase with a concept to it, to connect with that if we're having issues around sense of self, if we're having issues around kind of meaning and purpose and derealization, depersonalization of the outside world, where things seem sort of unreal or detached or different to how we normally perceive them, and typically with an anxious aspect to it, although it can present in different ways. If we're getting those sorts of things, I think practices that build up that sense of self and concepts using mindfulness on thought and reflection and imagery, together with the body and together with watching thoughts and feelings and all these other things. So probably the simplest would be to try something like loving kindness with a guided audio. It can be good to do it in a sense of relationship like that. and just see how that goes, see if that feels useful. And useful doesn't mean we'll necessarily immediately get rid of the adverse effects. It's more that we'll feel supported and grounded to keep going, and we'll be getting benefits from the practice that translate into our life, like increased concentration, improved connection with others, more self-compassion, tangible benefits we want to get from these practices. And you can look at some of the other videos on this YouTube channel for some ideas of short practices and trying them out. And then to build on this a little bit more in terms of cognitive practices, often people, when they experience these phenomena, their mind can feel very blank, or like there's not much thought going on. For me, I really had this sense that my thinking wasn't the way it used to be. My mind was very still, very little internal monologue, and a very deep sense of connection with the present moment, not in a way that I would describe as pleasant at that point. And so what I found useful, and many people do, is actually to bring in more thinking and reflection with this sort of blank mind idea. So, for me, it was thinking about doing some values reflection. What are my core values? What do they look like in action in my life? How do I bring them back in? Goals. What are the goals in my life right now, in my relationships, my work, my hobbies and play, and my health and personal development. So being very focused and reflecting on that in a kind of meditative way. So we're bringing more thinking in. And then task focused thinking. It's not always the most useful to be bare attention in a task. Actually, if you think about something complex like playing chess or certain sports, we actually need strategical thinking, and we need our thinking brain online. And I found by just reactivating that, I could really get that going, and it was useful and supportive. Other things could be gratitude practice, loving kindness, as we said before. So bringing in some more of those types of focuses into a meditation to develop those skills. And then, in terms of accepting these difficult feelings and stepping back and observing the difficult thoughts that are coming up, I would say you might want to start doing this in your life. So you'll see we've got Dropping Anchor on this channel, which is acceptance and commitment therapy tool from Russ Harris. And you might want to bring that idea in, so your meditative practice is more in life, and you're accepting the difficult thoughts and feelings with an expansive awareness that focuses in on what you're doing, but makes room for the difficult thoughts, feelings, depersonalization, blank mind, traumatic memories, startle response, fight, flight, freeze going off, any of those things. Dropping Anchor is a really useful tool to work with all of that. So that, would be something to do, and to do more of that work in your life. And these are all things that mostly we're doing on our own. The next one is really to re-engage in your social connections and increase that. Spend more time with other people, be really focused on them, listen, engage. Notice your difficult thoughts and feelings and experiences. Let the depersonalization or other feelings be like a backpack you've got to carry for now. But whilst you're carrying it, engage and focus on other people, and really keep putting your mind back into that. And if there are, if it's blank mind and it's hard to understand and concentrate, just be kind and do the best you can. That's typical of anxiety and depression. More broadly, we often can't listen and make sense of what people are saying. So just be giving yourself some self-compassion and listen as best you can, and be as present as you can be there. And that could be talking about what you're going through, or it can be just being with people and doing activities, listening, joking, living your values the way you would have done in the past with people. And then the last point I'm going to say today, and there are lots more things we could bring in, and I've got this article, Lost in Oblivion, which I'll link to below, which has even more ideas in. But the last one today is really to re-engage with your hobbies, your playful activities, your life goals, your work, all the things that might have started to feel a bit meaningless if you were getting into this real intense spiritual experience of losing yourself, and the serious work of enlightenment, we might call it. What did you used to do before the serious work of enlightenment? Were you reading endless books about spirituality, or listening to endless podcasts, listening to different teachers and engaging in all of that? Probably not. You were probably hanging out with your friends, doing things that were enjoyable, spending time with your family. Go back in time and think about what those things were, and start to put more time into that. And, think about what those values are. Was it connection? Was it friendliness? Was it fun? Was it playfulness? Was it humor? Was it love? Was it kindness? What were those values that mattered to you? And start to bring those into your life, and reduce how much you're reading, thinking, engaging in material around deep practice and this kind of thing. And, do all of this as an experiment and see how it goes. And if it feels like your life becomes more meaningful, then keep doing that. But if it doesn't, then you can switch around and try something else and connect with a teacher, or try to adjust your practice in a different way. But back to that key point, you are the expert on this, and do this one step at a time, very much in the present moment, but in the present moment in a way that engages you in your life rather than detaches you. So I hope you found this useful. I'll put some links below to some resources and support sites and other things that could be of support, and feel free to drop me an email or get in touch if you have any questions about this. And I wish you all the best, and there is hope. You can move through these states and get back into your life.